Quiet on the set.
AC.
Quiet.
No, sound like the screen door on Friday and shit. Damn, Smokey. Excuse me, stagehand.
Anybody else's lips smell funny?
I'm good at doing
Cheeks?
dumb and I'm breathing like a fat kid.
Man, I just got stage fright.
The Grog Bowl follows 3 Army veterans on a trail of self-discovery and hopefully progress as they talk about life before, during, and after service. These 3 service members have varied jobs, time in service, and experience after service, but one thing remains constant. You are never the same, for better or worse, after any amount of service.
Today's episode of the Grog Bowl podcast is brought to you by 1776 Tactical Corporation, Recon Tree Care, the Veterans Mobile Sawmill, and CLT Media Group. If you like what you hear, take a moment to subscribe to the podcast so you know exactly when we publish our next episode. And don't forget, follow us on Facebook and Instagram. Next episode coming at you right now.
How y'all doing?
Good, man. We're going to do intros real quick. You know who I am, so I need you and Mike to introduce yourselves to one another.
All right, Mike, you want me to go first?
Yeah, go ahead.
All right. Okay, my name is Daryl Lagarde. I'm from Louisiana. Currently live in Houston. I'm in the Army Reserves. Been in the military 23 years. I'm a 68 whiskey combat medic, and love it. Right now, my rank is Master Sergeant. December 1st, I'm gonna see if I'm gonna stay in a little bit longer or if I'm gonna retire. Been trying to retire for the past year, but my paperwork been getting messed up, so I'm thinking it's gonna be meant to be for me to go to Sergeant Major Academy. But we'll see.
All right.
So once again, I'm the lowest ranking in the room.
Yeah,
Go ahead,
okay.
Mike.
So, my name's Mike. I just retired. I just looked at the calendar. It's been almost a year. I retired last December 1st.
That's cool.
I did 20 years, E7 combat engineer, retired out of Fort Knox.
Oh man, I probably seen you walking around Fort Knox. That's where we do our instructing.
Oh yeah, what?
Marshall Hall.
Instructor?
And see, I started off as a primary instructor, went to senior instructor and course manager, and we taught the 68 whiskey, ALC and SLC, and 68 whiskey phase 3, which is the combat medic advanced training, and we do it right there at Marshall Hall and Bootnall Hall.
Is that right by the? Recruiter school?
Now the recruiter school is closer to the DFAC. We were what's those hotel apartments in the back of the post? It's right next to that. Steinman and something.
Okay. Yeah, I didn't go back there. I was up up front right there by the recruiter school over by the gym there.
Yeah, they got several gyms. But yeah, we were close by that the bar and restaurant back there.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay, I got you.
It's all the way back there. Yeah.
I know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
But yeah, well, good luck. Hopefully you get to go to the academy, spend 4 more years in the Army to get retirement for Sergeant Major.
We'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see.
Good on you, man. Get that.
Man. I'm so
Be command Sergeant Major.
Yeah, I got the opportunity to work as the command sergeant major in my unit, which was pretty cool. I mean, I enjoyed it, and that's what I feel like. I feel like I'd been there, done that. I just didn't have the rank on my chest, but it was a pretty good job, and we'll see what happens.
You get to tell soldiers to stay off the grass.
Yeah,
carry a little pocket ruler around.
Yeah. I mean, I think, acting as a sergeant major, you got a lot on your back and it turns you into a different person. You got to really get on people and you realize you're by yourself. You got you and the commander. And then you have your first sergeant and, you try to put things through your first sergeant and make sure things get done. In the Army Reserves is a little more difficult because you can't hold people, as like active duty. We're there for the weekend or something like that. So it's a little more difficult. But I found myself doing several evaluations, because soldiers couldn't get, didn't have a chance to do it or whatever. And I'm trying to get my name off the list of my battalion looking bad,
So the job I had at Knox, we were man, my brain just went dead. Anyway, we would go train Reserve and National Guards before they deployed. So we'd go to their
Okay.
units and validate their training and help them, answer all their questions and stuff. We'd roll into some of these places and man, be like, hey, where's the continuity book for your whatever? And they're like, oh, we
There
haven't
is
had
no.
him in 6 years.
Yeah.
What do you mean you're deploying in a month? Like, what do you mean you don't have a person there? Like, oh yeah, what's his name does it when you can. I'm like, oh, okay. It's a whole different beast. Yeah, it's definitely tough.
Yeah. Yeah, man, I've been enjoying the Grog Bowl, man. I've been really enjoying it. I've listened to every last one of them. That's amazing. Y'all had the Medal of Honor awardee on your show. I don't keep up with them, but I make sure I read their story. You know how they got the Medal of Honor and everything like that. And Kyle Carpenter, I mean, he was one of the ones that I read. You know, it's pretty awesome for him to be on y'all show.
So you're one of them good soldiers.
What
I
you
always
mean?
used to joke with people. I was a terrible, terrible soldier in that aspect. People would be like, "Oh, this unit's history and that unit's history and this medal." Like, I didn't know none of that, none of
Yeah,
that.
I think I
And
was just nosy. You know? Yeah.
I I felt a little bad for not knowing that kind of stuff, but I always had other things on my mind. But it's good for people to reach out and learn and know what's happening. Um, but
Yeah,
yeah,
because I didn't honestly I didn't know who Kyle Carpenter was before he came on the show.
so
So like,
after the show, I went Googling around looking at stuff, and I saw the original picture of him when he was getting the Medal of Honor.
Hmm.
yeah,
And I had seen it before and I knew it. I didn't know the name. He definitely looks different now. Obviously, he's had some healing time. And
yeah,
he wasn't wearing the uniform, but I knew of him. It would be different if he was an army soldier that received the Medal of Honor. It'd have been a little bit more prevalent. Because like when I talk about the unit, I was just telling him a story before you jumped on. That unit I was in was Bravo Company 11th Engineer Battalion was Sergeant First Class Paul R. Smith. I was in HHC on the rear detachment when Sergeant First Class Smith was killed and then received the Medal of Honor in that unit. That's the unit I was in for my very first unit.
Where was that unit located? Is that Fort Stewart?
Fort Stewart,
Okay.
Georgia.
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, I got his face in my. I have his face in my mind right now. I know the soldier. It was during
wait,
the initial invasion. He was the first
didn't
Yeah.
one of the war to get a Medal of Honor of
didn't
OIF.
didn't didn't they name the education center after him? That
At
Fort Stewart?
Stewart? Yeah.
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 I
Okay,
also went to
that's
the dedication of a school in his hometown in Tampa.
Oh wow.
Like they did all kinds of things when he got the Medal of Honor.
Yeah, I think his
okay.
incident
Yeah,
happened in Baghdad. Did it happen
Yeah,
in
right outside
Baghdad?
the airport.
Yeah.
it was a it was a mechanized unit, right? Mechanized infantry.
Yeah, all at the time, Stewart was all
Yeah,
heavy mechanized. I think
yeah.
they still are.
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah,
I remember doing PT on the tank trails.
I have a very short story. I was stationed at Hunter Army Airfield in the clinic. And
Oh yeah,
yeah, during when the war first kicked off, I already had orders to Hawaii, which I was going to 225 where Mr. Jimmy was. And
Yeah.
they was asking for volunteer medics to go in with an invasion. I was like, nah, not me. I got orders to Hawaii. I'm about to be far away. And I think I was in
Yeah.
Hawaii about 30 within 30 days we went and did a mission in Thailand. It was a training exercise for a whole month, which was awesome. I was like, man, it's the first time I actually went somewhere in the military. I mean, I was only in probably 2 years at the time. And I guess on the way back from Thailand, we started hearing, hey, y'all gonna go to Afghanistan for 6 months. Y'all gonna go to Iraq for 6 months. Then it turned into Iraq for a
Mhm.
year. And I was like, man, they're gonna send us from Hawaii to Iraq? Yeah, I thought I escaped, but I didn't.
Yeah.
no,
Whew. Yeah,
Uh, yeah, that's crazy because when did you join, Daryl?
I joined October 2000.
Okay, so I joined in August 2000. So you was already at your first duty station when I was still in AIT.
Yeah, because your first duty station was along AIT.
Yeah, I had that. It was about 42 weeks.
Yeah, mine was I think mine may have been 4 months, and I left
Yeah,
early because I had airborne in my contract, but they held us over because they had so many airborne people to where you was gonna be
yeah,
cleaning up every day, just cleaning up until it was your time to go to airborne school. And I was like, hey, send me
yeah,
to my first duty station. And I got lucky
yeah,
because I went to a clinic. So my
yeah,
recruiter didn't really lie to me. I was in Cook White's in the clinic.
yeah. Hey, that's nice, man.
Yeah.
So we talking about tough. We talking about a tough assignment or the toughest assignment, duty assignment you had, other than a deployment, but then also lumping in what we learned not to do from encountering bad leadership.
Oh, that's a good topic.
Yeah, at any assignment. So Mike was talking about his I don't did you say squad leader or I think you said squad
No,
leader.
so it was a
Team
team
leader.
leader.
Team
So,
leader, yeah.
well, technically, he probably was a squad leader, but he was a team leader. So we were on Rear D. So when I got to my first unit, and I got to Fort Stewart, Rear D,
What year?
HHC, 11th Engineer Battalion. I think it was April of 2003.
Oh, okay.
Um,
You're a
and
youngin, man. You're a youngin.
yeah, young. Uh, So we got there, and they were doing the same thing to us because all of Fort Stewart was deployed. So we got there, and they're like, "Hey, don't unpack your bags. You're gonna go catch up with the unit, next week." So we'd go home, we'd pack, we'd say goodbye, get ready to go, and they're like, "All right, just kidding, you're not going." And then a week or two'd go by, and they're like, "Hey, you're going to catch up with them again," and then we wouldn't. So and then Sergeant Smith was killed, and then two other guys from our unit were killed fairly quickly after that. And they're like, all right, you guys are definitely going now. Because there's like 15 of us that are new,
You're
just
a
hanging
rear
out
D.
doing nothing.
Yeah.
Huh?
You're a rear D.
Yeah. So we
Nice.
were waiting. We were like, all right, cool, send us, whatever. And they never ended up doing it. So they ended up coming back faster than anybody kind of thought because nobody really knew how long that first deployment was going to be. It was just go until it's done. They ended up pulling back early. But while we were there, you either have new guys, retiring guys, or people that they don't want to have downrange on on a rear detachment.
Yeah.
Right, that's the mix of people you have. That team leader I had, he was an E5, Sergeant Harewood. I will never forget this dude because he was hot garbage. I don't know why he was on. I don't know why he was on the rear D. I don't know why he was back. I don't know. I don't know his whole backstory, but when you talk about toxic leaders, he might show up in the dictionary next to the words.
Wow.
He was just not a really great person, and like I was telling him, we only had one car, so my wife would have to come pick me up.
I know that story.
And anytime she showed her face, man, he got 100 times worse. Like he was trying to show off in front of her,
Yeah.
and
He's trying to punk
obviously
you.
yeah, we're married. Like, granted, it wasn't for very long at that time, but still, you don't do that. But the one thing that just drove me insane about him, I got a COA for something. I don't remember what it was for. I did several things on Rear D, but I got a COA. I got it presented to me. They gave me the piece of paper inside the document protector, and he was like, "Hey, let me see it." So I showed it to him. Took his gum out of his mouth, stuck it right in the middle of it, and was like, "That's what that thing's worth." Man, I've been in the Army 5.5 months, and this dude just destroyed my very first award.
That's terrible.
Luckily, it was in the plastic. I pulled it out, and I still have it. But to for this E5, this leader, this team leader of mine, to just be that kind of a nasty person for no reason either. That stuck with me forever. He was just always, always, always harsh. And I guess he kind of did shape, my attitude a little bit because nobody liked him. Nobody wanted to be around him. Nobody wanted to do anything he wanted to do because of how he acted. And in a way, you learn how not to be from people like that, or or you pick up on those traits and you start doing it yourself.
Yeah.
It's one or the other. Luckily, I learned not to want to be like that, but that's a hard person to come back from as a first leader.
What was his rank?
He was an E5.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He was.
Yeah, he sound
terrible.
like a real shitbag.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, I don't really want to have anything to do with him anymore. But if he happens to listen and he happens to hear how terrible in person I thought he was, I hope he reaches out to me and like apologizes or something. Like he was that bad. So
Yeah.
whatever.
I would have fought his ass.
Man.
I barely had mosquito wings when I met this guy.
Nah, I would have tried to catch him off post.
You know,
with a ski mask.
Back in the early 2000s, when I went to my first duty station, we had a specialist. His name was Specialist Harmon. He was on our ass. I'm not gonna say he was a bad leader because I didn't really recognize him as a leader. But I mean, day one, he had us against the wall, like this, in our hospital whites. You know what I'm saying? With our back against the wall, we like, man, we thought we was done with basic training. Yeah. So
as a specialist, he had y'all like
specialist. No, actually, yeah, he was specialist, and he made corporal. Yeah, in the clinic.
Those are the worst. Corporals are the worst.
Yeah, I think he got out.
I don't know what it is about that rank. I hate that rank. I mean, I understand the rank, but I never liked the rank of corporal.
Yeah,
we didn't have very many corporals. The only two corporals I ever had were 12 Juliets, and they got rid of that MOS. 12 Juliet is a sea truck operator, and their points were always at 798. So once these guys were eligible to be E5, they promoted them to corporal, and then they just sat there. My gunner on my second deployment was a corporal, and he'd been a corporal since like forever, like 4 years or something like that. One of the best dudes ever, but they just got. That's the only way I like to see corporals. Like if you're eligible for promotion and you have attainable points, you don't need to be a corporal. Yeah, like that's just a waste of time. Yeah, in my opinion.
Yeah, that's and I've always been an advocate for the. So back in the day, y'all probably know this, but they had like Spec 4, Spec 5, all the way up to like Spec 8. So like you could get a pay raise because you were in a specialized field, but you didn't have to be in a leadership position. But you could still get paid. You could get pay raises. And I don't think they should have ever done away with that because there's people in the military who aren't cut out to be in leadership roles, but they're fabulous at what they do as a specialty type MOS.
Yeah.
And, especially like in my field, we have, 68 alphas. Like our points were high. I think I got promoted I had like 770 points. So I was, 28 points away from having to max out.
Yeah.
But, in our field, there aren't a lot of great leaders, but there's people who are really good at being biomedical equipment repair specialists.
Yeah.
So you shouldn't have to put on leadership stripes and be charged with being an NCO if all you want to do is fix medical equipment.
Yeah, and you should be eligible to get a raise instead of, having points that's not attainable.
Yeah, exactly. So
I agree 100% because I did that. I lost a job because of that. When I was in Hawaii, I went and did an interview with the USERPAC Sergeant Major. He's in charge of everything. So I went and did this. His special staff, whatever, somebody was leaving and he needed an E7 to come in and fill, like the platoon sergeant for the USERPAC, whatever. Anyway, I went in and I did the interview with him. He's like, do you want to be a first sergeant? I was like, no. I was like, I'd love to be a master sergeant. I don't think I want to be a first sergeant. I don't think I need that stress in my life right now. And I lost that job to a dude that showed up in frack U uniform.
Wow.
Not that we'd already switched over to the multicam. Frack U's were no longer like eligible. They were you getting away with them in the field and stuff. He showed up to the USERPAC Sergeant Major interview in frack U's, and he's like, "I don't want this job." I was like, "All right, cool." I was like, "I kind of want it." I lost to that guy because I was honest and said I didn't want to be a first sergeant.
Yeah.
Yeah, that sucks.
It worked out though. But
Yeah,
I agree. I agree. You shouldn't have to be the next rank to be recognized for what you do. And being, oh, hey, thanks for all you do. Like, sure, that feels good, but being able to support your family, feels better.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, just circling back to the topic, Daryl, tell us about what your toughest duty assignment was outside of OIF 2.
All right. One of my toughest duty assignments, I would say, had to be working in the warrior transition unit. You remember when they first started the warriors in transition? Well, the sergeant major at the hospital Sergeant Major Brock, which she became the
Donna Brock.
yeah, she became the
Yeah, I know.
I think
her.
AMAD sergeant major. But
Yeah.
to make a long story short, I was in the field hospital at Fort Gordon. We shut down the field hospital. They say, hey, if you want to stay at Gordon, you need to find a job. We found jobs inside the hospital. I was in the ENT clinic, not certified, just kind of scheduling people doing vital signs. And so they choose me. Hey, you go over there. You're going to be one of the cadre members in the warrior transition unit. I said, all right, cool. What we going to be doing? Basically, we was like platoon sergeants, and the people that was injured or sick, they got the best barracks, they got TVs, they got cell phones, they got whatever they wanted, and it was high visibility. Like people came visit all the time, and we just had to stay on top of it, man. We had soldiers trading medicine, trading narcotics, and I was the UPL. I mean, I was a newly promoted staff sergeant working as a platoon sergeant in a unit that had the highest visibility in the military. If you really think about it, because they had the hospital up was it in North Carolina that got in all that trouble?
Yeah, Fort Bragg.
It could have
Womack.
Womack, yeah.
Womack. So I won't say all, but I think a lot of the major medicines had warrior transition units.
Yeah. So that was one of my toughest duties because I went from being basically, a sergeant to being promoted and being a platoon sergeant. And I didn't know nothing about it. Luckily, we didn't have to do evaluations, NCORs. I haven't been to BNOC at that time, but I had to take care of all these soldiers. A lot of them outranked me. We had warrant officers and everything. I think that was the toughest job. It was a lot of paperwork and just making sure the soldiers are taking care of themselves and accountability, leave forms, keeping up with their appointments. It was tough. But
it's like being an HHC first sergeant.
Yeah, I was like, we had our other cadre members, which were the platoon sergeants. They put the work on us. They were actually retirees that they called back, Sergeant First Class retirees that they called back. So they volunteered to come back and work. They was amazing leaders. I learned a lot from them. We had retired sergeant majors, and we had a retired first sergeant and sergeant first classes that was over us. They were the platoon sergeants, but they kind of put the work on us, telling us this is what need to happen. And there was some amazing leaders because they was old school. There was old school leaders. They wasn't the new school leaders. So I enjoyed working with them. Still friends with a lot of them. But I would say that was my toughest one outside of OIF and OEF. Everything else was kind of cake. Working in the clinic, becoming an instructor was a little tough, talking in front of people, but eventually you get over it.
Yeah, for sure.
But that warrior transition unit, and that was on top of all that, I was a UPL, and we did drug tests like once a week, 100 people. They got leave on Thursday, 4-day weekend, come back on Tuesday, drug tests on both ends, and they were switching drugs and stuff like that. Man, it was a lot.
you had to assign people to be meat gazers.
Pretty much. Yeah,
Yeah.
that was the best thing about being a UPL. You don't have to be the person that watch. And
Yeah, that's cool.
me when I was in charge, and you get those classes, you find out like this is what's supposed to happen. But during the whole military time, that ain't what's been happening. Like guys, like, all right, yeah, go ahead, use the bathroom, pee in the cup, you hold it up.
Yeah.
But really, the instructions was like, soldier need to drop their
Watch
trousers below the
watch the
knees and watch
fluids
the
exit the
fluid leave
body.
the body into the cup.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, you know,
I told my
I
wife about
remember
that the first time I was about to do that, man. She thought it was the worst thing ever.
yeah.
drop your trousers.
And I
Um,
always felt I had to be accountable, man. So I didn't just let people slide. Used to get that cold urine and be like, hey, did you watch this go through from the body to from the body to this cup? And they're like, yeah, yeah, yeah. I'm like, man, this urine is too cold to be, you know. But yeah,
yeah, how the hell you get cold urine?
they get some urine
Or
from
a
another
balloon.
soldier and bring it with them.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah,
So they was greasing the damn drug test
yeah,
and
because
shit.
they was trading drugs, trading narcotics. Hey, I need to get more sleep. Let me use your medication since I don't get
Yeah,
any. They was doing all that, and we had a
that's
soldier. We had a
crazy.
soldier that passed away too between alcohol and drugs.
Yeah, I think that warrior transition was tough, man. I I, I think I avoided that. Um, like I know when I was at Bragg, I was working, or excuse me, quote unquote, Camp Liberty. I still call it Fort Bragg, but anyway, I was at Womack, and they have built like these. They built like these all these buildings, like probably like a couple blocks over from Fort Bragg, and all of that whole section was for the warrior transition.
Yeah,
And I mean, I just heard stories about how bad it was. I have no idea. By the time I got to Womack, in 2010, I had completely transitioned out of the military, so I was just in a whole different state of mind. I was going to college full time and then working full time, so I didn't really have time to think about anything military related. I was just busy trying to grind and take care of the family. So, um,
yeah.
that's good stuff though. That like you feel like what do you feel like serving in that capacity did for your career?
It was I believe it was very rewarding whenever they go back and look at my NCORs. They're like, man, this guy is like one out of so many people that actually got to be a cadre member for the Warrior Transition Unit at the time. It was early on; it just started. Um, I got to meet some amazing soldiers. I mean, some of the stories that you've seen on the news. We had a soldier. His last name was Moss. I can't remember his
Mm-hmm.
first name, but this guy had a RPG go through his whole body, and they wanted to leave him for dead. And the surgeon actually said, "No, we're going to work on him. We're going to get this out of him and detonate the RPG." And he still lived. His last name is Moss. First name
Yeah.
it starts with a C. Last name is Moss. I'm gonna have to send you that information, man. I just got to meet some amazing some amazing soldiers during that time too, and it was rewarding. It gave me confidence to be in front of soldiers. I mean, I'm in front of 30 soldiers, like I'm the first sergeant, at a
Yeah.
young staff sergeant. So, but I also got out the military after that point because they told me I was stabilized, and I end up coming up on orders for the Met team mission. I was like, I emailed a couple guys like, "Hey man, how's the Met team?" He said, "Man, don't come over here break a leg." And so I didn't go. I was like, I'm out because I had to re-enlist for it, and they lied and said I was stabilized. So
So the Met team was
they
that
they
was
get
you going over to Iraq and training
yeah,
Iraqi police force
pretty
or
much
Iraqi soldiers.
yeah on your specialty MOS on your MOS. So they have like 12 guys with different jobs. And I was gonna be the
Yeah.
medic. I had to teach the medical stuff. And I'm like, and they said whenever you get into some kind of issue, them guys will run, and you're there by yourself, fending for yourself. So I was like, nah, I'm not doing it. If I have to reenlist to do it, I'm not doing it.
Yeah.
Nah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah. Like I said, I once I decided I was getting out, man, like I was in a I was in a good place as far as like I'm just getting out, man. I'll find out what it looks like on the other side.
yeah,
And you kind of did the same thing, but then you were able to do the reserve thing and keep it going. So
yeah. Yeah, I kind
that's
of,
good, man.
I love the military. I love being on active duty, but we had some family things going on too. We lost a child at the same time I was about to get on orders to go to the med team. I was like, okay, I'm gonna get out and do a try one, and I just got sucked into the civilian life, and the check made a difference. I needed the money, so I kind of stayed around, and then you wind up getting
Yeah,
promoted and doing different jobs. I just continued to enjoy it, but I'm going
for
downhill
sure.
now, downhill.
Yeah,
Did you
yeah,
ever try to go to AGR?
No, I wasn't really interested in AGR because it still wouldn't give me what I felt like I needed on a day to day. Like my job right now, I'm a firefighter paramedic. So I still get that adrenaline rush, different things. I'm still doing my medical stuff. So, AGR, it just would have been the paper pusher type of thing or instructing. And
Yeah,
I didn't want to do that.
yeah.
yeah. That makes sense. So I mean, it feels like, or it seems like everything that you wanted to do,
Yeah.
you kind of checked that
Yeah,
box.
I
But
really got lucky. Yeah, I got lucky in my military career to do everything that I wanted to do and go to places I wanted to go. Hawaii, that was like one of
yeah,
those, what it was called, a wish list or ask.
wish
It was
list.
on
Yeah,
ask. You remember that? It
Yeah.
was,
yeah.
yeah.
Ask. I
So
remember
I put
ask.
that in and got to go. I was like, man, that's awesome. Then, man, I had a tough assignment after we came back from Iraq, but I kind of got out of that. I'm glad I did. I don't know if y'all want to hear
Yeah,
about that.
yeah. I'm here
All right,
for it.
Go
really
for
quick.
it.
Whenever we got back from Iraq, everybody was stop loss, so our whole unit was gone, like going to different duty stations, except for like 4 or 5 of us. And basically, they had a division formation. They said, "Hey, who all re-enlisted for the 15,000? Go over here. Who's going to be in the striker brigade? Move over here. And who's not in the striker
Yeah,
brigade?" It was like 100 of us, and it was like, "Okay, y'all go in the third brigade, and y'all going back to Iraq in 6 months." I was like, "Holy smoke!" Wasn't looking forward to that. I would have re-enlisted for the 15,000 to not go back that soon. But I knew something was up with the military for them to be offering 15,000 to stay in striker brigade, which them guys they ended up going to Iraq several times after our first one.
yeah.
So
For $15,000.
yeah, so I was in headquarters, 235 infantry. What was they? Cacti medics, and
Mm,
I was assigned to. Uh, I want to say it was Alpha Company, but whatever company it was, the platoon sergeant was crazy. I say this dude is crazy. He was a ranger, and he just was kind of thrown off to me, and I kind of peeped it. But what happened was the reason why I didn't get deployed with him. Hurricane Katrina happened. I'm from Louisiana. My battalion commander was from Louisiana. He got all the Louisiana soldiers and said, "Hey, who want to go back stateside?" I was like, "Me." Well, those people, some of the soldiers that I was in that unit with, they ended up dying in a helicopter crash.
damn.
You can look
Oh
it up.
shit.
What happened was this platoon sergeant he ordered Specialist Shores to finish off Iraqi interpreter, and supposedly Specialist Shores went in there and shot at the ground, and that Iraqi guy he ended up still dying because he was already wounded, but the interpreter I don't want to say ratted, but actually told on told the story of what happened. So Specialist Shores went to jail, and that platoon sergeant went to jail. Well, they eventually went to jail, but they got off on the charges. But they had 10 soldiers that was going to testify in Kuwait, and they died in a helicopter crash. And some of them was in my unit, medics.
Oh shit.
Damn. So you could have been on that. You could have
Po-
been on that helicopter.
Possibly. And what tripped me out was I knew that situation had happened, and then I was watching the Navy versus Army game, and guess who brought soldiers to that Army versus Navy game in San Antonio. First Sergeant C, I forgot his whole name. That same first sergeant
Damn.
brought soldiers to that game on TV, and I'm looking like, what?
Damn.
And he was promoted. Yeah, look up like 10 soldiers died in a helicopter crash, Kirkuk, Iraq.
So I was there then. We sent people back. I was in Iraq when Katrina happened, and we had a couple soldiers that were from Louisiana that they've got in contact with their family, so they didn't have to leave. But a couple other ones, they were able to leave to go back and make sure things were good.
Yeah, I think I left December 2005, and they got deployed around March or May. They got deployed to Iraq, and I think it was, I want to say maybe August. That's when that situation happened when the helicopter crashed. But I read it.
Yeah.
I read it probably like five times since it happened. I just can't believe it. But yeah, they dismissed the charges, things like that. I know the guy specialist shows. I know he was dealing with some issues, PTSD type things or whatever. I don't have contact with him, but I just read the story on the internet. But yeah,
yeah, that's very interesting, man.
yep,
Just reminds me, like, I I rode on helicopters quite a few times when we were deployed, and every time I was thinking, like, I always thought about Black Hawk Down when I was on the helicopter,
yeah,
and because it's like, I mean, shit, you never know. I never knew, like, if somebody was just going to, like, randomly fire RPG at a helicopter when I was flying in,
yeah,
or I flew on a Sherpa one time. It's like a small army like airplane, prop wing plane. And I was thinking the same thing. I was like, man, if this thing goes down, man, all I got is 270 rounds. That's it.
man. When we was in Hawaii, we really played Army. That's my first time
Yeah.
playing Army, and we used to uh, hop to different islands on the mission. From the
Yeah.
Kahukus to the Big Island. We was doing that, and I don't know if it's just my team, but we was on the Chinook. Them things. It was
Yeah.
pretty scary. But when we hopped to one of those islands, I want to say it's the Big Island. 5 helicopters came in with infantry troops like this, and then they all landed. All of them landed
Yeah.
really hard. Everybody got off the helicopter, holding their
Hmm.
back injuries and
Yeah.
everything. So it was like almost a mass cow during training.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
after that, I was
Yeah.
like scared. I was like, man, I don't know if I want, because everybody training, even those pilots.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's actually, people don't know this, but a lot of deaths occur during training accidents.
Yeah,
Like I've heard so many stories of people getting ran over by tanks,
yeah,
like at Fort Stewart,
yeah.
like
I remember hearing that.
just during training exercise.
Yeah,
When I was in Hawaii, a guy got run over by a het trailer,
oh
a het or
Lord,
a Hemet trailer,
yeah. One of those
in
new.
the
Yeah.
middle of training, and because he was sleeping behind a tire. I mean, granted, should have done a walk around, whatever, but that's why you don't sleep under or near vehicles, is because um, multiple failures, leadership, drivers, TCs, all the things, and the dude himself sleeping where he was sleeping. But he got run over, and but the battalion commander actually took a little bit of heat because she didn't cancel the training. But she was like, why? We took a pause. We took some time. We got the people, the close
I know.
people,
I
some
know
help.
why.
But it's real life. You
Yeah.
still got to do the training.
I know why. She said it must have been raining out
If it ain't raining, we ain't training. If it ain't raining,
there. Yeah. So
No, it wasn't like that. But yeah, that stuff happens all the time, unfortunately.
nah, that's I mean, that's part of it, man. Like, I mean, you hate to see that, like, especially when it's just a training exercise. You hate to see a soldier lose their life.
Mhm.
Um, but I mean, I it really is an occupational hazard. Like, I mean, you can die in specific jobs in the civilian world the same way you could die in a job, in a field training exercise in the
Yeah,
military. So
training is needed. It's really it's
yeah,
needed.
it's everybody's a safety officer. So you gotta not sleep under a vehicle.
Yeah,
That-
Yeah.
as a course manager, that was one of the things that I protected. I made sure everyone was safe. I had some soldiers that wanted to do like this iron and seal thing when it's not in the POI. It's not for us to do. But
yeah,
they wanted to train these soldiers up. Hey, let's go run with ammo cans and do this and do that. I said, no, you're not gonna do that while I'm here. No, because as a
yeah,
reservist, we got to go back home and work our job. If we get injured,
mm,
a reservist, we go back, we get injured. Now we got to try to take time off from our regular job for something that's not included in the training that they come in to attend. A National
yeah,
Guard, they have to, if they get injured, they stay on orders and they taking money out of the next NCO pockets to where they can't go do their training for their leadership. So you got to think
yeah,
of the big picture sometimes. They,
for sure.
they just want to, oh, I see regular PT, but they want to do additional things. And it's like, no, you're not about to do that on my watch. No.
Nah. So I'm gonna talk about my toughest assignment was my time as an instructor. Mike, is that your phone?
Shh. We don't want to talk about that.
Yeah, somebody's probably like, "Hey, it's past your bedtime."
I mean, it was past my bedtime before we started
Oh,
this.
yeah, it's an hour later, y'all, by y'all.
Yeah, but my most difficult time in the army was as an instructor. Um, First of all, I wasn't used to talking in front of large groups, and so I had to get used to that. I had to get used to being in a arena with a bunch of my peers, which wasn't always the case. Like, for example, when I was at Fort Stewart, I was a young E5 and then got promoted to E6, and so we had an E7 there who vacated the NCOIC position. So I was promoted to the NCOIC just based on the fact that I was a senior ranking person in that particular shop. And so, I wasn't with a bunch of my peers. Like, although I was young, I was still, um, I still had younger soldiers working with me in the shop. And so I was looked at as a leader. Um, but as an instructor, you're around 50 or so E6s and E7s. And, everybody's trying to, of course, everybody's trying to do their best to put themselves in a position to make the next rank. Or, in my field, they still had, what do you call that? Warrant officers. So, being selected to be an instructor was a good NCOER opportunity to go ahead and put in your packet to become an instructor or become a warrant officer. So, it was just, I never really got along with my peers. And so, and then also I wasn't a great politician. And so, I always spoke my mind. Um, and sometimes that would get me in trouble. And it got me in trouble while I was there. Um, I got bad NCOER while I was there. And, it pretty much it was kind of like the straw that broke the camel's back in terms of whether I was going to stay in or I was going to get out. I was already at 9 years, and things just did not go well for me at that particular juncture in my career. And so that's when I decided that I was going to get out. I just didn't want anything else that the Army had to offer me. I felt like I had gotten to a certain point. Um, it was a stressful job. Just having to deal with uh, troops we were training. It was a training environment, so there were NCOs that were getting in trouble because they were messing around with students, and I mean, it was a lot. And so at that time, I was having issues in my marriage, and that was like an ultimatum also from my wife. Was like, either we change course, or this is done. So I mean, kind of at that point, I was like, well, shit. The odds are it's stacked up against me. Like I don't really have a leg to stand on, even if I did want to stay in the military. But when you put it all together, like just the environment I was in, got a bad NCOER from Sergeant Major Leonard. Uh, he gave me 3-3, and that's hard to come back from, especially if you want to get promoted in your first look. That's like unheard of. I don't think any sergeant major would look at my NCOER and say, "Oh yeah, let's go ahead and promote this guy on the first look." So I probably would have been an E6 for the foreseeable future, and that just wasn't something that I was willing to entertain. If anybody knows me, they know I'm very ambitious, uh, but at the same time, I wasn't willing to let somebody else dictate my career in that fashion. So instead of giving them the pleasure of serving as an E6 for the unforeseeable future, I just decided I was going to get out. I felt like I had a skill that was marketable, and I was able to land a job before I even got out of the military. So I went on terminal leave. I was getting paid my regular paycheck plus my paycheck from my new job. So life was good after that. But just being in that training environment and being with my peers, already guys who I didn't really get along with to begin with, was really a recipe for disaster. So, I did meet some good people while I was there. I don't really talk to a whole lot of those people that I was instructing with, but there's a few that I keep in touch with, and yeah, that's my toughest assignment. As far as bad leaders, I think I probably encountered most of the bad leaders, both tours at Shepherd Air Force Base. So as a student, I encountered bad leadership, and then when I went back as an instructor, I encountered bad leadership. But it just, it taught me things that I wanted to make sure that I didn't emulate as an NCO. I did things for fun, to help reinforce standards. Like, for example, if we tell soldiers, like, when you come to formation, make sure your canteen's topped off. Well, when we have formation, we check in the canteens. If I can feel your canteen is half full, well, I'm a shot put the canteen, right? I'm a shot put it as far as I can, and then I'm gonna make you exercise to go get it and exercise to come back to formation in the form of iron mics. I mean, that's just what it was. So, but I felt
So
like
that
that was. Go
so
ahead.
that's mild in the case of things that were happening. But when you said when you got out in 2010,
Yeah, 2000.
so that was kind of the tipping point where that kind of stuff started to fall off. Around that time frame, even the mild punishment for fun, if you want to call it that, started to get highly, highly looked down upon. And even the good leaders that in your case were trying to do it as a reinforcement, a negative reinforcement, saying, hey, look, you forgot your water, you're going to iron Mike.
Yeah.
You can still do the exercises, but the problem was the throwing of the canteen and the big to do started to get frowned upon by the big army. And around that time is when people started to get their hands tied behind their backs to say, okay, now you got to be real thoughtful about how you implement your punishment, how you reinforce the standards, how you make sure everybody already knows, what the punishment's going to be ahead of time. So if you said, hey, if you show up with a half full canteen, I'm going to throw it across the yard and you're going to iron Mike to it. And they knew that coming into the day, that's probably an acceptable punishment. But if they showed up with a half full canteen and all of a sudden you put the canteen in a slingshot and shot it even further and said, okay, now you're going to low crawl to it. Now your punishment is unacceptable. It's basically the same thing, but it's different. But that was 2010 was the start of the fight on toxic leadership. And it got to a point around that same time. I had a friend of mine, excuse me, we were in the same unit 3 times in 2 different duty stations that he ended up getting moved because he hooked up with another platoon sergeant friend of his, and they were together, separate. They were okay. They were a little on edge. They were a little rough. They were a little toxic. I guess if you could say a little toxic, they were a little toxic. But together they fed off each other, and they both became super toxic. And they both got pulled from our unit and sent to a new unit. They were so bad. But yeah, it was around that same time, 2010. You got out right around the time of we're gonna stop this, and we're gonna teach people how to be a little bit better.
Yeah, they started turning to softer military, softer army for sure.
Yeah, they couldn't stop me though.
But I will say something that I took a little bit of offense to in your thing. You're saying, you were going to be in an E6 for the foreseeable future. It's not that bad. I was in E7 for 10 years.
Yeah, but that's not.
I'm just kidding. It's terrible. It's absolutely terrible.
I guess in the reserves, I didn't even calculate the time. I was the staff sergeant, but I was a staff sergeant for 6 years. And it's just, I don't know how bad that was, but time was just moving.
Yeah, that calculates down to like 6.5 months, though.
But see, here's my thing is
I'm just busting.
my thing is, if I'm up for a look for E7, I want to make it the first time.
Well,
I don't want to go back to the E7 board 3, 4, 5 times. Like that's just not who I was.
You don't want to. No, nobody wants to.
Yeah, the E7 board. Man, I just wasn't even paying attention to my career at the time when I was a staff sergeant. Came out because it seemed like you had to prove yourself. As a staff sergeant, you had to prove yourself to your new leadership. Didn't really know the process of even getting checked at, the board. You just had it. I just knew about having my last 3 NCORs need to be good. So I kept on trying to do additional duties. But as soon as I actually made Sergeant First Class right before they changed SLC.
Yeah.
What was it? Right before they changed it, and once you got that class, you actually got promoted. It was something that was going on once you was eligible, but you had to have your next PME. You got promoted.
Oh, okay.
And man, you didn't need MLC. You know about MLC, right? You needed MLC to get. Was it MLC to get Master Sergeant or Sergeant First Class? I don't know.
No idea.
Okay. Yeah, this is a new.
MLC's.
I just remember B knock and A knock.
Yeah, it's a new thing. But they had some changeover in 2012, and long as you got your PME, you was gonna get promoted, and that's how I made Sergeant First Class. It's a little different.
That kind of bottlenecked it though for a little while, because for a while it was if you could get into the class, you could get promoted quick. Yeah. And then there was guys that had been trying to get into the class that couldn't anymore for some reason, and then so they were getting pushed farther down the route. Yeah.
Yeah.
So from that time, from 2010 on like every couple years. The requirement to make E7 changed. Time of service changed. Time of grade changed. You needed the PME to change, and it changed over and over and over again. And I even just last year, the year before, they switched it up. Now the whole promotion system's changed.
Yeah,
Everybody's on the list.
believe me,
It's just how far up the list you are
it's terrible.
on the OML
It's crazy.
is where they put the cutoff.
Yeah, it's pretty.
I'm just glad I got out when I got out.
So Jimmy, every year, everyone is looked at every year, and then you get an OML number, and then it's up to HRC to send you to your next PME. So,
Damn.
and being an instructor or an instructor unit is even more competitive. All the soldiers trying to do the right thing, trying to score high to be number 1 out of 30 in their class to get promoted. It's just, and then you got instructors with, with these attitudes, and, they can hold people back. They can mess up your career. They can, definitely hold you back. You could be a star at your unit, but you come to the damn schoolhouse and you got one of your peers that's teaching you that's going to knock you down,
Yeah, gatekeeper
Yeah.
is what I call them.
Yeah.
That's why I couldn't get my EF and B, man. Gatekeepers.
Yeah.
But like I said, I'm glad I got out when I got out. But hey, let me know when your retirement ceremony is, man. I'll make sure I catch a flight down there. Me and Michael come down there together.
For sure. I'll let you know. I'm on my 5th person for my retirement packet. So we had a guy, he started, he was the active duty person. He was in my unit, then he left the unit and kind of went civilian. And
Yeah.
man, he wasn't able to do it. He ended up mobbing. Then we had a new person come in. They didn't do nothing and quit the civilian job. Didn't say nothing. I called them the next month. Oh, no, I'm not in the unit anymore. I quit. I didn't get a chance to do anything. I said, all right. So I called my higher ups. They get back to me like, oh, y'all got a new person come in and give them a chance. I looked them dead in the eyes. I said, have you ever did a retirement packet before? And they're like, no, I haven't, but we're going to get it done. I'm like, you're the 5th person. So last month, they changed the system. You got to upload all your documents in IPSA. Y'all probably never heard of IPSA. But IPSA,
They were doing that as I was leaving.
yeah.
Nope, never
And the
heard of
reserves
IPSA.
all the way behind active duty. So you got to upload your documents like you're an S1 human resources person, and then your S1 got to look over them and then send it to brigade to look over it to send it to division. So yeah, the new people just wasn't getting mine processed, missing signatures, stuff like that. And I'm not an S1 person, so I need their help. I can't do it myself. If I mean, all this time that it's taken, I could have went and got the MOS and did it myself. But I have to rely on other people. Yeah. So last month I said, hold off because December coming around and they're going to do it. They're going to tell everyone who's going to the Sergeant Major Academy. So I said, just hold off to after December 1st or whatever. And then we'll get back to it.
All right. Well,
Yeah.
hey, I wish you luck, man. If that's what you want to do, man, I wish you luck.
It's just, I'm just so close. I'm like, I might as well do it if it's going to happen. But if it don't happen this time, I'm done. Because last year, one of my buddies, he was 25 out of 165 and didn't go to the Sergeant Major Academy in IMOS.
That's crazy.
And they only sent 11 people.
Yeah.
And man, it's jacked up. I don't want to talk about everything, but basically, the Sergeant Major of the Army Reserve, his MOS people were most qualified and got to the Sergeant Major Academy. When you look down the list, his MOS is the people that went.
Looking out for his people.
Yeah.
Man.
So, so they only sent 11.
Politics as usual.
I'm number 32 out of 165 this time. So one year they made 40, last year they did 11, so hopefully it's a big year and I'll see. But other than that, they can have it.
Good luck, bro.
Okay.
Good luck, bro.
Yeah.
All right.
Hey,
man.
I retired saying the same thing. I said if I didn't make it, I was going to retire. I didn't make it, I retired.
Yeah.
If that's your plan, stick with it and you'll be good.
Yeah.
I never made it that far, man. It was like, I'm out.
So we didn't not all of us got to talk about bad leaders yet. I don't know how long y'all wanted this to go, but
yeah. So Mike talked about bad leaders. he talked about that shitbag team leader he
Oh yeah,
had
yeah,
that
yeah.
stuck a piece of gum on his
Oh yeah,
COA.
yeah. I do remember that.
Um, and so the bad leaders I had, I just kind of brushed up on it a little bit.
Yeah,
Like
at the
it was,
schoolhouse.
it was mainly, yeah, it was mainly at the schoolhouse. Like I had great leaders at two two
Oh
five.
yeah,
Um, when I went to Tripler for like I think it was 30 days or 60 days.
yeah,
And there was, but again, I was working around just a whole shop of military 68 alphas. So it was just a different environment. It was like a good old boy type system. And I just didn't fit in up there. So I was glad to get back to 225. The people at 225 appreciated me more so than being in a hospital environment
yeah,
as a 68 Alpha. It was just a different environment. They looked down on 68 Alphas who were in field units.
yeah.
Like they felt like, you know,
Not confident or
but
something.
yeah. And so, you go up to the hospital trying to learn and you really don't learn anything. Like the NCOs, they didn't take care of you. They didn't have any type of program put together where they say, okay, the first week you're gonna learn this. Like they didn't have a program set up. It was supposed to be a proficiency program. Like they actually supposed to teach you stuff, and they didn't teach you anything. So a lot of things that I learned in this job, I learned from leaders who wanted to educate me and wanted me to know what I was doing, but then also being resourceful and ambitious and taking courses on my own and just learning things on my own.
Yeah,
So, but yeah, I mean, overall, like all the bad leadership that I encountered was mainly the NCOs that were in my career field. Like they weren't good NCOs, man.
yeah,
Um, and I don't know what it was, man. They just weren't. Um, and so I was glad to get out of the military and get away from that type of leadership. It was my career field. It was just toxic leadership, man.
yeah,
Not everybody, but it was a lot of toxic people, man. So, and I'm sure there's other people that can attest to what I'm saying.
yeah.
But it is what it
What
is.
it is, they used to consider, I mean, they consider it, they changed the wording, but basically a low density MOS, and other people, your
Mm,
peers realize, hey, if I want to get to the top, I got to knock somebody else down, so I can look
yeah,
better. And that's probably what it was about. But we were fortunate to have great leaders in 225, man. We was very fortunate to
yeah,
have the team that we had. It was amazing. Everybody missed that unit. Nobody can really talk too bad about our unit. But
nah,
we had one of my bad leaders that I had was a guy that joined our unit right before we got deployed, and they made him.
mm,
I guess they made him our squad leader or something, man. And we had to go hunt for. His bad leader was like because he didn't look out for his soldiers to go eat to have breakfast and lunch before we actually went from Iraq to Kirkuk. You know,
yeah,
me and uh, me and Lawrence, we had to go, get the metal plates and put at the bottom of our Humvee doors and all that. You heard those stories?
okay,
Because in Hawaii we had
I
the
did that.
regular.
We still did that in OF2.
Yeah,
yeah. They call
that's
it
when we was there.
hardening the
Yeah,
vehicle.
hardening the
Or three, I'm
vehicle.
sorry. OF3.
Okay, so we did that, and then we had to pull guard on it because people would come take your metal, take your take your steel. The problem was one morning he was like, "Hey, y'all two go watch the LMTV because we drove the LMTV in." And man, we was watching it all day. He didn't bring us breakfast. He didn't bring us lunch. And I guess we left around dinner time. And he come walk up with his bowl of ramen noodles or whatever, eating. I'm like, man, like, dude, you didn't care nothing about us. And we had to ride with him all the way from Kuwait to Kirkuk. and he didn't care if we ate or not, man. We didn't want to eat our MREs because we needed them. But yeah, he was a shitty leader, and I'm glad I didn't have to really be around him whenever we was actually in Iraq. And I got, I had Sergeant Gonzalez as my team leader. He took care of us.
Yeah.
Whew, that guy. I wouldn't even add him on Facebook because I that was terrible what he did. And it was all the time. It wasn't just that one situation we didn't eat. It was just all the time. He was just shitty. As soon as he came to the unit, like I see why they dump you off on us because they didn't want you around.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'd have had to go over his head.
Man, it was a struggle,
So,
man. Our unit was set up perfectly, and then he came.
hey, I got one last thing I want to add to this.
Yeah.
So it wasn't a bad unit. It was a bad experience. It was the worst thing I ever did in the Army that I'm glad I did. I was the casualty assistance officer for a soldier who died on active duty, and it was the absolute worst thing I ever did in the military that I would not take back for anything. It taught me a lot. It put me through a very depressive state for a little while, but it taught me a lot. I think this deserves more time than I'm going to get it, but if anybody out there has ever been a casualty assistance officer or casualty notification officer, you probably know what I'm feeling like. That's the worst thing you'll ever be glad you did. I had to help a family through a death of a soldier, all the way from notification through the funeral, through all the benefits and all that stuff. I mean, that could probably be its own episode, but I don't have a terrible unit. I had a couple bad leaders, but that was the worst thing I ever did. But I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, yeah. I just did a NCOER for a guy about 6 months ago, and he was our S3 NCO, and I had him do his, he had his support form. On the support form, it said I was a casualty assistant officer. I assisted 46 families. I'm like, bro, you meant to write this on this support form because it's not wartime. Like, when did you do this?
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
somebody's
we had to
making some
take that
stuff
one out.
up.
Yeah, we had to take that one out. I'm like, bro.
Yeah, he trying to get
But
promoted
yeah,
ASAP.
that was the first time I really was aware of that position or that duty, a casualty assistant officer. Yeah.
So in Fort Stewart, it was a rotating detail, and in Fort Leonard Wood, it was a rotating detail that I dodged because I had just done it. But it came every month. It comes up, every brigade give up so many people to go support this. I
Okay.
had one guy that said he loved it and he volunteered for it every time. We never gave it to him because he was crazy, but you just get put on a roster. It's like CQ. They just go down the list and they call you if anything ever happens.
Yeah.
And I asked the guy, so there's a civilian office that's in charge of it, and they run a roster and they help you through it and all this kind of stuff. And I said, why don't they just have an MOS for this? He said, come ask me that when you're done. And about halfway through my detail with it, I realized they wouldn't be able to keep people in that MOS. It's too stressful. It's too hard. It's mentally draining.
Yeah.
It's very rewarding, but it's a really, really, really tough job to have to do. So having it as a
I can
detail is
imagine.
really the only way to do it.
Yeah. I can imagine.
Yeah.
Well, hey guys, I appreciate you all sharing these stories tonight. Hopefully somebody got something good out of what we shared. But for me, I just appreciate being on this platform and, talking with you guys, and just really, helps me emotionally, and, just being able to express myself to people who truly understand the things that I went through in my time on active duty. So I want to say thanks to both of y'all for being here tonight.
And I appreciate y'all accepting me, bringing me on y'all platform. I enjoyed it. I know y'all can tell I got a lot to say. I talk a lot. It seems like I talk a lot. But yeah, man, anytime, man, I'm here.
For sure.
I love the
Now,
podcast. Listen to every last one of them.
yeah, we appreciate you being on and sharing and being open and candid with it, and hopefully, as we reach out to other people or other people you let them know about it. We'd like to bring people in, even we have another person that's usually with us, Derek. He's not with us again tonight.
Yeah.
But we'll bring him in, and we'll bring other people in as we need to. And if we find people that you have a different perspective, you've been a reservist for a while too, so there's things that when we talk about, other people can relate to you better because your version of the story, although similar, you speak from a different area. So it's just another avenue to get out more information. So it's awesome.
Cool.
I'm really glad you were able to get through all the technical
Anytime.
difficulties to join us today.
Anytime. I got a new app on my phone now.
Yes, sir.
Got to put it to use.
All right. Well, yeah, we're gonna wrap it up, man. But again, thanks you guys for coming on tonight. And all I ask is, just share it with your people, man, and get some feedback and tell us what we can do better.
Yeah, cool.
All right, salute to everybody on the call.
This podcast is for entertainment purposes only and is not a substitute for professional or legal advice.